man was walking in the woods one day when he saw a bear out of the corner of his eye. He stopped, said a silent prayer. God, I know you can do all things. Will you please make this bear a fellow Christian? The bear caught up to the man, placed his paw on the man's shoulder, and said, Brother, will you pray with me? Dear God, for this meal that I am about to receive, make me truly thankful. This is The Christian Bear with Dr. Ben Hilsman. Welcome to episode 28 of The Christian Bear. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Hilskamp. On today's episode of The Christian Bear, we're going to hear about the beliefs of one of my good friends, Ben Youngbaer. A native Vermonter, Ben, who uses he/him pronouns, is a tea educator, filmmaker, and skateboarder. His primary focus is on hands-on tea education classes and workshops, which he's been holding since 2012. Since 2015, he has operated the Setting Sun Tea Hut on his property and has been visiting farmers markets throughout New England. He holds a BA in film production. He's directed, wrote, edited, and shot feature films, short films, music videos, and other projects. He's been an avid skateboarder since 1999, and he says it keeps him active and is great for clearing the mind of stressful things. For those of you who know me well, you know that I'm a bit of a tea geek. Some of you would say tea snob. If you're wondering where a lot of that tea knowledge, a lot of that tea training came from, well, you need to look no further than today's guest. When I lived in Vermont for graduate school, Ben was employed at the tea shop that I spent most of my time in. He introduced me to good, well-sourced tea and to the tea cultures of many different regions. It is my pleasure to have Ben on the podcast today. So Ben, thank you again for being a guest on The Christian Bear. I'm really happy to have you here and to get your thoughts on your beliefs and on belief in general. So to get us started with the very easy question of what do you believe?
What I believe is essentially the potential of what is inside of us that is inherent and can only be changed by our surroundings and our own belief in ourselves. But the potential of the world exists in every person.
Awesome. I really like that. Thank you. How have you come to hold those beliefs or that belief?
I think there was a lot of periods in my life where I had to grow up kind of quickly, and not in in the traditional sense of extreme poverty or dealing with death at a young age, but just kind of challenges within my education. I had some health problems when I was younger, and I had to kind of figure out who I was much younger than a lot of my contemporaries. So I needed to figure out what I was capable of and how much I could rely on other people and how much they were affected by their own, surroundings and where their limitations were. So I kind of figured that out. I think I was probably around 10 or 11 when I really figured that out. And I've just been building on it through various reasons, more experiential. The more people I learn that have had different experiences, have had similar experiences, and we've all kind of, overlapped in that same sort of way where we are not limited to what other people say we are limited to. And then, I've just been, kind of building on that as I travel, as I meet other people. Kind of anything can add to that, and not a whole lot subtracts from that.
Thank you. Has there been any experience that's made you question your beliefs? And if so, did your beliefs change and how?
I mean, I think sort of on a daily basis, you are faced with those things where you're like, can I do this today, or what kind of help do I need? I think we all kind of grapple with the daily, you know, trials, I guess you could say, and you know, you might get into like a big rut where that extends for a long period of time, and you might, um, find yourself really seeking more outside help, or guidance, be it from a book or a movie, something to change your train of thought so you get out of that rut. So I don't know if there's really any one experience that I called to where I was like a hard pivot of what I believed or didn't believe in. I think it's going back to the stuff I was saying before, is that it's building every day, until today. It's like something I learned yesterday is something that I can add to, how I get through tomorrow.
Got it. Thank you. Thinking about your beliefs in general, if you had to boil it down to one core fundamental belief, what would that belief be?
I think it's going back to what I said before about, the potential of the world being, innate in all of us. I think that there's a lot of societal pressure to be something or not be something, to have a high level of education or to have a high paying job or at least gainful employment, and it doesn't fit a lot of people's, not necessarily their abilities, but their their desires and their passions, and their own belief system. So, um, if we allow that the internal spaces to flourish a little bit more, then I think, the world follows and becomes a better place.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you another question that I didn't send you before. One thing for our listeners, the way that we met, the way that we've connected, has largely been over tea culture, both in Vermont and beyond. I wonder if you can speak a little bit about your work and life and how that's kind of woven together with tea and tea culture. There's definitely a maybe not religious aspect there for me, but definitely a spiritual aspect. And I'm just curious how that may or may not have played in your life.
Yeah, it's definitely played a big part in my life. I think I already had that in me, but seeing the way tea culture has been, portrayed for centuries, and the way certain lineages have been passed on, um, there was a lot that I gravitated towards, where it was this grounding practice of making tea being connected to, a plant that grows in the ground and that is picked and then creates this, beverage that not only tastes good but also makes you feel good and allows for more contemplation, that really doesn't exist in any other sort of culture. I mean, like, food has some of that, but it seems a little bit more superficial in a lot of ways. And tea can be superficial as well, but there's a lot more depth to it. So the that sort of spirit that is attached to it, there's the grounding nature, and I mean, there's a lot of Zen Buddhism that is, historically been attached to tea culture, but there's also a lot of Taoism. So Taoism is more closely aligned with how I guess my outlook on the world. Although I don't sort of practice. I think it's just it is part of me, or it's not. But, um, that's sort of how I align, in terms of the spiritual aspect of tea culture.
That's the end of my questions. I do want to give you some time if there's anything you'd like to add or anything you would like to promote that you're working on.
I mean, I'm always sort of working on something, and whether or not it materializes is kind of up to the weather. It's up to finances, and also how much other people are interested in whatever I'm offering. So my primary focus for the last 10 years has been tea education, and I tend to focus more on hands-on education. So I have a Japanese style tea hut that is on my property, and we built that in 2015, and I've been hosting classes, tea retreats, workshops since we finished building it. And my desire is to not only tell people about tea, but have them practice. So I give them access to all of my teaware, and sort of focus in on like one specific thing that I might want them to learn. Like if they have never used a traditional teapot, then I want them to get their hands on it. I want them to be able to use it, because I can talk endlessly about the history of that style of pottery and clay types and whatnot, but it doesn't mean anything unless you're really using it. So to have that tangible component, I think, is a big part of the way I approach things. And yeah, I've been always, learning from other people and the questions that they come in with. And then ultimately, I like sharing tea with people. So it's, even if there aren't a lot of people that show up to the class, if I just have a little bit of a connection with somebody, that's like all I really care about.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for anyone listening to this episode, I will include Ben's website in the episode description. Again, I can also add that Ben has some really amazing tea education, tea information, and on his site and beyond. So I definitely encourage folks to check that out. And again, Ben, thank you so much for being on the Christian Bear and being on this episode. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
This has been the Christian Bear with Dr. Ben Hilsky.